Coming up on this episode of In Your Mind.
It's like you have an umbilical cord that's attached to you and whoever who has hurt you or you're angry with, and you're draining your power into them. You're feeding them as if you're the mom, and that umbilical cord is attached and they're the baby and they're getting all your energy. And when you cut that cord, when you forgive, you cut that cord and you take your personal power back. My name is Dana Liesegang. I am the author of Falling Up, My Wild Ride from Victim to Kick-Ass Victory, forwarded by Wayne Dyer and published through Hay House. You can find it on Amazon or order it in any local bookstore. I highly encourage ordering it through your local bookstore to support local business. I am currently involved in the Jesse Lewis Choose Love Foundation, where I joined forces with Scarlett Lewis, also a Hay House author, and getting social emotional learning in schools across America.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of In Your Mind with your host, me, Paul Trill-Payne. Oh, I don't know what to say. There are not enough words for how excited I am that this next guest is with us. Her name is Dana. I don't know what to say. I told her that every time I talk to her, I say, you have left me speechless. I love you so much. But please help me welcome Dana. Dana, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for giving me the honor to be on your program, Paul.
My gosh, we are thanking you that you took the time. I'm so happy you're here. God, I can't wait.
Well, I think we just fell in love with each other instantly.
All right. We really did. What was supposed to be like a 15-minute, like, hey, let's just connect, turned into like an hour and a half. I don't even know, 2 hours.
Yeah, that was a 2-hour phone call. Just like, oh my gosh.
Oh, so good. Okay, so I start every episode with the same question. And I really love for people to get, I think, more of a authentic feel for a person, because I think sometimes on the interview shows, right, it's really hard to break down the wall that we all put up, or it's really hard to get to authenticity if we have like a pitch or something to go over. So I have found a way to get rid of all of that, and it is to start with this question. So I want you to tell us all what Dana was like as a child.
Dana was a total tomboy as a child. I sucked my thumb until I was 10. I carried the blanket around until I went into boot camp. I had 6 parents by the time I was 10 years old. I learned how to adapt really fast because, well, when you have 6 parents, you have 3 different households. And I know it's like, how do you have 6 parents? My mom married 3 times and the dads remarried, and they kept me in their life. So I was a happy-go-lucky kid. I was upset when I actually had to start wearing a shirt in summertime. So most people thought I was a boy all the way up till I was probably 13 years old.
Wow.
I liked playing in the mud. I followed my brother around. I was his shadow. And I was just, and if there was water, I was in it.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Northwest in Oregon and a little bit of Washington State. Growing up in the trees and the rain, and sun shines when the sun sets.
What did your parents do?
My dad worked in the shipyards when I was a kid. My biological dad, and dad number 2 worked for Portland General Electric. Dad number 3 was a entrepreneur. He owned his own door making and installing company. And my mom did many jobs. She was massage therapist for a while, an aerobics instructor for a while. She was worked in the meat department at grocery stores. Stepmom number one worked for Intel. Stepmom number two was a stay-at-home mom.
I don't even know how you remember that. I have 4 brothers and I don't know what they do. I have 3 brothers. I don't have 4 brothers. What am I saying? I have 3 brothers. I'm one of 4. Oh gosh, that's so funny. I love that. And you said it was a brother, yes?
I
Older?
have a brother and sister. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the youngest of 3.
Oh my gosh.
Plus siblings and
Yeah. And then, so that's you as a child. How was high school?
oh my gosh, high school was, I think high school is challenging, I think, for everyone.
Mhm.
I, at the age, I went into high school at 14. I was a young freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I graduated when I was 17. And I was not the popular kid in school. I got picked on a lot. I was a swimmer, and my high school didn't have a swim team. So
Mm.
I swam for another high school and the city swim team. I I didn't follow any clique of any kind. I played high school sports a little bit my sophomore year, some volleyball, my junior year volleyball, and I got most spirited senior, though I didn't even think anyone knew my name. So there's that. I was like, I guess they know who I am. My stepsister was a cheerleader, and we were in the same grade,
Mm.
and we were just complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Wow.
And I enjoyed high school. I didn't have a date, not even once, really, in high school.
Mm.
Um, well, that's not true. I had one date, and I asked them out.
And then you made the decision to do what after high school?
I took a little bit of a gap
Mm.
and worked for a while at an auto body shop and lived with my dad. My mom had split with dad number 3, and I went and lived with my brother for a little while. I was too much of a sloppy teenager, so his girlfriend was like, she's got to go. Went and lived with my dad, and that lasted about 6 months. And I finally was like, I got the courage to join the Navy. He was in the Navy. That rack behind me is all the ships that he worked on in the shipyard. See all those hats back there? Those are all off of Navy ships that he had worked on. And the top 2 is the ship that he served on and the ship I served on.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is a history right there. Wow. Okay, you joined the Navy. Did I have this question for anyone? Honestly, anyone that goes into I don't want to say it's like what do you call them? What is a great word for everybody? Army, Navy. Is there anything?
Military?
Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect. So I know that it's going to be a different answer for every person, but like, so for you, obviously your dad had a little bit of influence because he was in it. Why did you feel the call to do that?
I never felt smart enough to go to college, even though I took all the classes to go into college, and there really wasn't money for college. And I always wanted to see the world. And growing up with my dad taking us down to the Portland shipyards down there on Swan Island, I'm like, we got to run around on all the ships. I just really loved them.
Yeah.
And I knew that was a way to see the world. And I had I was encouraged to go that direction. I took the ASVAB, which is the aptitude test to join the military. I took it from the time I was a freshman till the time I graduated high school, and it was just kind of the direction I was going in.
Wow.
And I love ships. I joined the Navy to see the world, and I have seen the world. Now I see it on cruise ships.
That's my kind of shit. Oh gosh, I love that. Well, ugh, I have been honestly like preparing myself for you to come on this show to tell the story because that is part of the reason our conversation lasted so long, right? Is your story is it's just one I feel so deeply that it's important for people to hear and to just know what it's not about knowing what the experience is, but I think knowing that an experience can happen and then look at what also can happen. So I don't want to take any more time. Please just let us know who you are.
Well, we were talking, I joined the Navy when I was 18, and in boot camp, I became the company comedian, and I was having a great time and enjoying it, enjoying the freedom once I got into the fleet, making friends, and yet I still kind of felt alone, even though I was amongst people every day. I was getting kind of picked on like I did in high school. And I was like, God, you got to be careful what you wish for, because I was like, well, if I broke my arm, maybe they'd be nicer to me. No, I don't really want to break my arm. Well, maybe my left arm. Maybe they'll be nicer to me if I break my left arm. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Maybe my leg. Well, I went through all these body parts, and it's really important, your thoughts and feelings and how you're going about life, because you can accidentally attract tragedy into your life.
Hmm.
Which brings us to the point of October 25th of 1990. I was getting off work and I wanted to mail a letter to my boyfriend back home. And then I walked off base to mail it, which was, about a mile. And then as I was walking back on base, a young man pulled along next to me and he offered me a ride. And we drove back and he's like, well, let's go to the pump room, which was the bar on base at the time. And I was stationed at Point Loma Sub Base in San Diego there. And I was like, yeah, I don't really feel like going to the bar. I'm tired. And I didn't really feel like going back to the ship. And he's like, well, let's go for a drive. I'm like, okay. We went for a drive and I noticed that he had already drank a bottle of Jack Daniels. And he's like bragging that he drank the whole pint by himself. And he was driving fine. And I grew up with parents that, had a beer in their lap and drove down gravel roads. And, that was normal. I'm from the country. It's just, and it was the 70s, no judgment.
Yeah.
um, Long story short, by the end of the night, I was brutally raped, choked out, and thrown off of Sunset Cliffs. Now, I don't know exactly how I was found or if that was his true motive. And I think because he choked me, and I passed out, he thought I was dead. So to cover his tracks, he threw me off the cliff, which left me with a broken neck, a severe head injury, and I broke my neck C1 through C5. And the doctors didn't expect me to live through the night. They called my parents. I had 5 out of 6 parents show up, my brother, my sister, my grandma, and like everybody agreeing, because, they only let a couple people in the room at a time. And they all got there, and I was still in a coma. And they told my family that I was going to die. They had to say their goodbyes. Like, they didn't even sew me up completely at the top of my stomach and just above my belly button because of internal injuries and collapsed lungs. And I saw my sister and my mom with their hands on me, praying for me. And it was like I was standing behind my head.
Mm.
And I was like, Mom, I'm going to be okay. I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. And it wasn't until a few years later that my mom told me, and she's like, she goes, I always knew you were going to be okay. I told the doctors when they told me that you weren't going to live, I said, no, I heard from a higher source. She's going to be okay. And it took me a long time to realize that I was that higher source and that she heard me. So I'm like, there's so much we don't know. And being in a coma, I was out of my body and I could see everything. And then when I came into my body again and I woke up from the coma, I guess I made the decision. I don't really know or understand all of that. I'm not even going to claim like I do. I was on a respirator and I couldn't move from my neck down. I could only feel my face at the time because C1 through C5 is like Christopher Reeves. C1 is the top bone in your neck and you lose the ability to do anything. Your autonomic nervous system is the only thing functioning. And I worked really hard because I tried to commit suicide on a respirator.
Mm.
Doesn't work out too well. That thing's breathing for you. You don't really have the choice. You know, war against the machine. No, you can't do it. And so I realized, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair, it's going to be on my terms.
Mm.
So I bit down on it, and I bit down on it, and I bit down on it. Finally, the nurses were so annoyed with me that they brought in a respiratory therapist to see if I could actually get off the respirator.
Wow.
I mean, and so I did, obviously. I did. I worked at it, and I had, all of my family in there cheering me on, two at a time. And they would come in the oddest combinations. I'd have moms with moms and dads with dads and moms with the wrong dad. I'm like, look at this. Like, it was like, entertaining for me. How to keep your sense of humor.
Yeah.
and and it took a while. I got off there, and then they said, well, you're never going to be able to take care of yourself. I was like, yeah, that doesn't work for me either. And I was like, they were wrong about my ability to breathe. They were wrong there. So I'm going to say they're going to be wrong here. I mean, I couldn't move from here down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to be independent. And again, it's that setting your sights on what you want and feeling it inside, and really feeling it inside. Like, there's no one that can tell you no, if you feel it. And 3 years into my injury, I was independent at the level of C form incomplete 5. Incomplete means you have sensation and or function below your level of injury. And when the spinal cord swelling and shock wore off, the actual damage to my spinal cord was at cervical 4 and 5. And I was incomplete sensation at cervical 4, incomplete function and sensation at 5. And I was like, well, if it's just a bruise, and they're telling me after I got my independence they were like, it's not possible. You're at the level of injury you are, it is not possible to be independent. You're gonna need a nurse the rest of your life. I was just like, that just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. I'm an independent person. And I did it. I got my independence. And I was like, wrong again. And they're like, well, you're never going to walk. It's just not going to happen. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? Get me? I continued to, do different things, and I use sports and skiing and swimming and adaptive sports. If you're going to be in a wheelchair, you might as well enjoy the journey. And I didn't hit that depression until I got married. I just, used my military training, and you bust through, you adapt, you overcome, you go. And it wasn't until I learned how to drive a big rig, I became the first quadriplegic in the nation to drive an 18-wheeler. Go big or go home. I was, when I was a kid, we grew up around a truck stop for a little while, and I loved the trucks. And my ex-husband, he was like, well, let's get a truck and a trailer. And we adapted it into a toy hauler. And I was like, if I'm buying a truck, I'm driving it. And
oh my gosh.
So I did that. And I really like to, fulfill my dreams.
You did.
So after I got married, and then we were in Texas driving around, and we parked, and it just, there was a depression that finally settled in, and I started going through the depression and the anger and the stages of being injured. And that's when I found Wayne Dyer's book, Manifest Your Destiny. So I read that, and I manifested myself out of the marriage that wasn't healthy for me or him. And you ever been in a relationship where both of you bring out the worst in each other?
100%.
That was kind of what it was. We worked really good for a while, and then it just was like, we're just like this. And I was like trying to be independent and walk, and he's like, I don't want you to walk because you'll leave me. And then I'm like, did you just say that out loud?
Crazy.
I'm leaving you anyway.
Yes.
And it got a little abusive. And I was just like, we're not doing this.
Mhm.
And I manifested my ability, and every day I was on my hand cycle, on my stationary bike. I am walking, I am walking, I am walking. I had Enya blasting in my ears. I was juicing, I was doing colonics, I was getting vitamins and minerals and IV, and just doing what needed to be done to heal the body. I'm like, Wayne Dyer said I could do this, why not?
Mm.
And I was able to stand up a little bit and cross country ski. I used a walker on skis, and I couldn't pick up my feet, but I could hold myself up and
Yeah.
shuffle my hips a little bit. And I think I went 10 feet the first time, and my legs just kind of went,
Mm.
eh. And you don't, it's easier to cross country ski than it is to walk. You don't have to pick up your feet.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I was gonna say I can walk, but I cannot cross country ski. So I mean, you got it ahead of me.
Yeah, it's easier because you don't have to pick up your feet.
Wow.
I just shifted my weight a little bit and the skis went forward, and I just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. Perseverance is definitely a gift, I think, that I have. I have this drive and this will, and I'm just like a bull that sees a red flag, and I'm going after it, and it's nothing is going to stand in my way.
I guess what I would ask, because I'm happy you said that word perseverance, and I'm also happy that you say it's a gift. Um, it's, I mean, I asked this when we first talked, which is why we talked forever, right? Like, how I still, and I know even the answer because we've already talked about this, but I'm just keep the story every time I hear it, even when I tell it, it feels so fresh to me. And I don't, it's not like I'm focusing on the things that happened at all. I keep thinking of you as a person and thinking, how, how do you find that drive? How do you find that courage? I can't even imagine having an ounce of the courage and drive that you have. I truly can't.
I think you have it and you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Was your family like that? Like, it's like, where did you get that gift?
You know, according to my uncle, I asked him one time, I'm like, what was I like as a little kid? I'm like, what was I like as a 3-year-old me? He goes, exactly like you are now, just younger. You developed your personality really fast. So I always just kind of had this go get 'em attitude. And my brother, I guess, you know, my brother was a big key to that. And my mom, I think everybody, all of my family kind of nurtured that side of me,
Yeah.
because it was like, oh, Dana likes to do this. Let's give her a little test. My brother would be like, drop out of that tree. I know you're 2 feet tall and it's 10 feet high, but do it. You're in the club. You know, okay, Gary said to do it, you know, this. And I was swimming across the Clackamas River in Oregon at the age of like 7. My brother was 5 years older than me. And it never dawned on me that I couldn't do anything that he could do.
Mm,
So I think that was just part of my personality, that I can do anything. And my mom was always telling me, you can do anything you set your mind to. And and so my formative years, I got this, you can do anything you set your mind to. And it was encouraged by everyone around me. And so I did. And I haven't lost that.
mm.
And I really, really like my independence.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that just always keeps me striving forward. The more I get back, the more independent I am. The more sensation I get, the more function I get this much more independence. It's like somebody's dangling the carrot in front of me at all times. Like, you want more independence? Keep going.
You
Just
just have this like zest for life. This, yeah, I don't, it's so rare. It's so rare. Um, the passion that you have, it's so amazing to see in a person. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm like, you cannot make me get emotional on this show. Stop. So we have to stop. No, I'm just joking. Dana, okay. I knew this was gonna happen and I tried to prepare myself, but obviously I can't. Um so we went through this, right? That horrible thing happened. You still defied the odds and grew and grew and grew into the person that you are today. Medical advice or whatever, it doesn't even matter. You decided what you would do for yourself. Where did that take you?
It took me on a journey to a lot of stem cells. I traveled the world, and I'm like, join the Navy, see the world. I just forgot to put in my contract that I wanted to do it standing, not in writing. So, I have, I kept going and kept pushing and kept pushing and trying to force it and force it and force it. And I was able to stand up and walk. I'm like, you can see in my book that I'm using crutches on the cover. I can walk now, some with crutches. And then I kept hitting this wall, and I kept hitting the wall, and I was breaking my ankles and breaking my ankles. And the universe was saying, hey, time to take a different road. And that's when I heard Wayne Dyer talk on a live podcast, I believe is what he was on. And he said he had chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And this was in 2011. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to thank this man before he dies. So I go on a cruise in Australia for me. Go on this cruise to Fiji, and I made the intention. I set my intention before I went on the cruise that I was going to meet Wayne and tell him my story. I met him first 3 times. All I could do was this. And so when I finally was like, I'm Dana Liesegang, blah, 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 and he's like, slow down. And 3 days into that cruise, I was at a personal dinner with him, and he told me to go see John of God in Brazil. And John of God is in Abidjan, Brazil. I think he's passed away. It's this thing called the Casa. It's built on a quartz crystal mine, and there's a lot of energy there, a lot of energy healing. John of God never touched me. He was a medium, so he would channel these doctors, and you have this thing called a spiritual surgery. I don't know. I don't question it because I had 2 spiritual surgeries, and I asked to see with my eyes closed. And what I got back was the ability to forgive.
I can't believe that. Like, you've said that before, and you saying it again, it's insane when you say that. I have no idea what happens to me, but something crazy is happening every time you say that. How? Tell me, how did you get that?
Yeah, I made the choice one day. It just felt like we went under the sacred waterfall, and I'm underneath this waterfall, and all of a sudden I just felt the water. It was like cleansing negativity or anger or whatever it was out of me. And one of the ladies was like, oh my God, we just saw the darkest shadow go into the water out of you. I'm like, I don't know what happened, but I'm feeling really good and full of love. And at that point, I was like, what happened to this 18-year-old boy to make him at such a young age do such a heinous crime? What happened to him? I was molested at 14. What happened to him? We don't know. We don't know what made him angry. We don't know what his life was or even his psychology. Yeah. And so I chose compassion for myself, and I chose compassion for him. And forgiveness is compassion in action. And it's like you have an umbilical cord that's attached to you and whoever who has hurt you or you're angry with, and you're draining your power into them. You're feeding them as if you're the mom and that umbilical cord is attached, and they're the baby, and they're getting all your energy. And when you cut that cord, when you forgive, you cut that cord and you take your personal power back,
Mhm.
and you're so much lighter. And the anger just fell away. And it gave me that next step into healing. And I don't know, I really don't know what happened as far as all of that goes. It's a choice. It's definitely a choice. Forgiveness starts with choosing. And I forgave the Navy in 2014, 13, when I heard Immaculate Iligabiza speak, and I had the privilege of speaking on that same stage. She survived the Rwanda genocide in a bathroom with 6 other women, and her entire tribe was murdered, slaughtered, her family, her siblings. She was able to go into the prison, sit face to face with a man who was one of the people that killed her family, and give him forgiveness. I was like, if she can forgive him
Mm.
and this whole entire tribe on the premise of they know not what they do, I was like, you're right. The military, when they cover up these rapes, they know not what they do. They think, when they say, you don't want to do this to your military, do you? You don't want to make your military look bad. They think that that's helping the unit, because the military has to act as one. You got all these people acting as one. So that their mindset is that we got to keep that. We got to keep that strong. However, if you're acting as one and you're allowing this underlying current of trauma, you're not doing good for the whole. So when they cleanse that out, that it will make the military that much stronger, because if you know for a fact that you can count on your fellow servicemen and you're going to be safe, then you're going to work a lot better together and you're going to work a lot harder. And so I was able to forgive the military that way, because I was like, you know what? They really don't understand it. They know not what they do. And if Jesus can forgive, I can forgive. If Immaculate can forgive, I can forgive. And so that's kind of how I did it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I fall backwards and I have to forgive again.
Oh, for sure. I think that's key too. I think in this like whole world of trauma is that it's not just so there's not just this is the solution and now it's fixed. Like like we're people. We're too complex for that to just work. Like if we're
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I forget. Let's go. No,
yeah.
no, it's a process and it's a continuing thing. And now I'm at a point where, which is really interesting, I'm at a point where I'm like, forgiveness really isn't even necessary if you look at it from a standpoint of, these are my beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
you of we make contracts with other souls before we come in, and we have lessons to learn and gifts that we're given to teach. And for me, teaching self-reliance, perseverance, and forgiveness is part of my journey. And his soul came in to set my soul on my path. And if you look at it from that standpoint, you're just like, there's really nothing to forgive, because being in a wheelchair has been one of the biggest gifts. It's been the biggest hurdle, bar none. And if I never had to be in a wheelchair, I don't know where I would be now. I don't know if I would have done and excelled at the things I've done. It would just be a different life. And the wheelchair has been a gift in the fact of, I had 3 wishes before I got hurt. One of these wishes I wish I would have never wished for. I wish to be popular. I wish to be small and skinny. And I wished I couldn't sweat. When I broke my neck, I lost the ability to sweat. Please never wish that away. Never wish that away. It is
Why? Why sweating?
You can't, the sweat, oh my gosh, I used to sweat so bad. I was in my uniform and I would walk from one end of the barracks to the next and I'd just be soaked. And it was embarrassing.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate. I will tell you, like, if you know me personally, it is probably like my one, not a fear, but it's something I am highly attuned to because I feel the same. Like the minute it is like, I would say honestly above like 69, 68, 69, the
Oh,
second I am so hot. Like it could be 95. It also could be just 80. To me, it feels the exact same. It's just there's heat and then there's normal.
yeah. Before I ended up breaking my neck, I would have the windows down in winter in Oregon.
Oh.
And my sister be like, it's so cold. I'm like, put a coat on. And now I'm like, if it's less than 70, I'm like, brr.
Oh.
Just wishing the sweating ability away, you take away your ability to regulate temperature at any temperature. If it gets too hot, I get heat stroke. If it's too cold, I can't get warm. I'm like, so I'm either hot or cold.
Oh my gosh.
And the other two wishes, I know being I lost like 60 pounds after I got hurt, so I got skinny and then became one of the most popular disabled veterans at the Paralyzed Veterans Wheelchair Games, at the Disabled Veterans um, American Veterans Winter Sports Clinic, and I was just like, huh, got those three wishes, and I've traveled the world. So I'm like, be careful what you wish for. Be very careful.
You
You can inadvertently attract it and manifest it in ways that you really don't want. So, the other gift in how I was injured, it took me a long time to see how I was injured as a gift. And doing podcasts like this and writing my book and having people come up to me that have experienced a lot more than I have, and some of it's just experienced a little less, but not much less. I had a lady come up to me in Denver, Colorado, who was raped, choked out, and thrown in a dumpster behind a 7-Eleven in Beaverton, Oregon. And it happened around the same time it happened to me. And she said, I'm not physically paralyzed, but I've been emotionally paralyzed for the last 21 years. And I was like 21 years post injury at the time. And she goes, thank you. You have helped me see in a different way. And I, I I'm gonna change my name back, take my identity back. Her family blamed her. She was a Jehovah's Witness. And so she was just walking from her house to 7-Eleven for a soda. And they blamed her. And she took her personal power back that day. When I did book tour in Canada, a 16-year-old hadn't spoken in 2 years. Her mom was floored because after I spoke, she sat down with me and she spoke to me for about 30 minutes about what had happened to her. And so the gift in how it happened is that I'm able to unlock other people's prison. You know, a friend of mine, Tony Rodriguez, said to me, he said, your story is not yours to keep, it's yours to share, because you could be unlocking someone else's prison. And that's what it's been. So, yeah, I guess I took one for the team because God gave me the strength within to come forward, to share, to be able to be a solid foundation for someone else who needs that. And I consider that a blessing.
I think we all have to consider it a blessing. What you do is truly a blessing. Like, what am I doing?
You're gonna make me cry.
Like, but I love what you said about unlocking people's prisons because I felt, yeah, I mean, I think like easily I could say that that's exactly the feeling that I felt after we talked. Really, like truly, like something that I never talk about, and God, it was so good. And that's why I'm saying, like, the story is the story. What happened to you happened. But like, I don't know, all the stuff that you do after that is that's where I focus, because it's just amazing.
That's what I feel like too. I'm like, my story is just one of billions of people who've been sexually assaulted, and we all have a similar stories, but it's what we do with it.
Mhm.
It's how you persevere. It's the resilience that you have, and God gave me a strong resilience factor, and He gave it to me so that I would share it with the world.
You're
And I believe that now, this walking thing, I think people just need to see some of the struggle, that I'm still in the struggle.
mm,
And I had a gentleman at another speaking engagement tell me that exact same thing, which I was like, oh, that brought that home. They People still need to see that you're still in some of the struggle, so that you don't seem like Superman, and you're just like them. And I'm no different than anyone out there. And this guy was going to commit suicide after my talk. He was going to commit suicide and he made up his mind. Had I got up and walked off that stage, he would have committed suicide. And he stood up and he told, and there was like 20 people in the room, and he told us all that someone he'd loved just passed away, and he didn't feel his life was worth living anymore, and he was going to commit suicide after this talk. But he said, because of my story, because I'm still in the chair, and I'm still working towards leaving it, that he could see a light in the end of his tunnel, and that his life was worth living. I'm like, just those three people alone makes everything that I have gone through worthwhile.
I couldn't even imagine. I mean, you're gonna meet those three people just in an hour in an afternoon. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're touching that many lives. It's so amazing what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, that's enough. I'm like, my husband's gonna watch this and be like, I've never seen you cry. Okay, so I want to do a couple things. Number one, tell us all real quick, how do we get this book? Because I need everyone to go and purchase this book today. And how do we follow you?
You can go on Amazon to get the book. That's the easiest way. You can go to Hay House, get the book. It's cheaper on Amazon. Sorry, Hay. Um, um, and you can follow me on Facebook is the best way. I have a website, danaliesegang.com. It's DANALIESEGANG.com.
We'll link all of this, I promise, everyone.
It's not the easiest name. It took me forever to learn how to say Ilagabiza, Immaculate Ilagabiza. I'm like, and now I've got it down. And she's such a beautiful soul. You can, yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so we're gonna get in touch with you. We're all buying books.
Yeah.
I have to end sort of how we begun. I just feel like it's always good. You're right, full circle. So with the life that you have now, living the experience and the journey that you've done so far, because you have so much more to go, but today, if that little girl was in front of you, what would you want to share with her, or what would you like to say?
Whew, that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell her that she is beautiful just as she is, and to shine her light as bright as she can. Live full, because so much of what we learn as children, so many subconscious downloads of, you're not smart enough, you're too fat, you're too this, you're not pretty enough, and I was definitely not the popular kid in high school. And I always felt not good enough, and I think we all kind of get that. I would just really say you are good enough just as you are. You are beautiful.
That,
Just as you are.
and you are beautiful. You are good enough. Dana, I cannot love you anymore. Honestly, like, like, uh, oh my God, what are we doing? What is this episode? I truly, like, from the bottom of my heart, I'm happy you're on the episode, but more happy that you're in my life. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I can't wait to come see you in San Diego.
No, I can't either. All right, you guys, and we will see you all next Wednesday, like we always do. So thank you guys. Thank you, Dana. I love you so much. Have a good one.
You too.